Framing is war. We're getting out-framed every day. The 99% movement is being framed as violent anarchists. We see this in the media. We hear it from our friends. This is going on, and we can't let this kind of thing happen without doing our own framing and communications to get out the story we want. Because if we don't frame ourselves, the other side will frame us. That's the way this works. Now, there isn't time to talk comprehensively about this, to really get into the mechanics of this and how it works and how it's crafted. So we just wanted to give you a few ideas and open it up for conversation, and hopefully you'll come away from this with some stuff you could apply in practical terms back wherever you're heading tomorrow. And we've got some great people here to do this. Bob Perkowitz is a master in the direct marketing world. He's done this kind of thing in commercial terms in many companies. He's the founder of Eco-America. And Eco-America uses consumer research and engagement techniques to build public support for the climate issue, public awareness of the challenges and public support for taking action. So this is a really important and focal area because we know that it's been a tremendous challenge getting strong public engagement on this issue. So let me turn it to Bob.
Hi. I haven't even said anything yet. This is starting off very, very well. I start with research. This title of this thing is Message, Research, Communications to Build Capacity. So let's just start with a moment of research here. And let me just ask you, how many people here have a college degree? Okay, how many people have a graduate degree? Okay, let me just tell you that that's almost everybody, maybe everybody. And as I think you all know, only 27% of adult Americans have a college degree. Of the current class that's coming up, it's about 32%. And only about 4% of Americans have a graduate degree. Let me ask you, how many of you go to a place of worship every week? 2. Okay, so I don't know, 50 people, we might be 4 or 5%. 42% of Americans go to a place of worship every week. Let me ask you, how many of you watch 3 hours or more of TV a week? Yeah. Now, the actual number, pardon me, the actual number is 3 hours per day. Almost, no, sorry. No, I was, you know, and 63, 64% of Americans watch 3 hours or more of television per day. How many of you have spent more than half of your career working for a for-profit company? Maybe 10%, okay. And how many people here are people of color? Okay, it's about 40, somewhere just over 40% of Americans are people. So the people in this room, the first point is that I market to ordinary Americans, and a lot of the things that I say come across as a little strange to academic people, very thoughtful people, because generally when you're trying to convince somebody about climate, we don't have to convince you guys because you all get it. So we talk to people in a different sort of way. My background is as in a corporate world. The last company I ran, I was mailing out over 1 million 100-page catalogs a day from 6 different I'm not going to tell you how many trees that is because I probably won't make it out of here alive. Everything that you do in that kind of world is metrics driven. I mean, customer service metrics, cost metrics, sales, profit, everything that you do is measured, and there's a metric for it. Everything that you do is based on research. We'd have 50 or 60 research projects going on trying to understand what customers are, what colors, what they care about with other things. You just do everything you can based on research because, if you drop $10,000, $20,000 on research, it relative to the amount of money you're spending on marketing, it just isn't all that much. So you really try to understand stuff. So I've been doing a lot of the corporate work, and then about 6, 7 years ago, I left and started doing nonprofit work. My wife Lisa there, if there's only one person applauding, it's probably her, and if there's only one person screaming, it's probably her. But she's been a big environmentalist, and then having been together for 20 odd years, she kind of led me down this path that you should take your skills and go to try to do something to save the world. So that's what I tried to do. And we started something. I was on the board of the Sierra Club Foundation for 6 years. I'm on the board of Environmental Defense Fund right now. I'm on the board of something called World Bicycle Relief that builds bicycle factories in Africa. And then we started something called Eco America, which is a nonprofit that does large-scale public engagement programs on climate and sustainability issues. So we start with research to identify audiences. We do research, what we call values research, to understand who cares about what. Okay, and then what groups of audiences should you target, and what do they care about? Because you can take the message out to, let's say, a message of a local currency out to one group of people, and you'll get zero receptivity. And you can actually do a whole spectrum, and you could say which groups of people in a community would care most about that. So we try to find the people that would care most and market to them. Do a lot of research in values, in communications, and then just what we call market and marketing sector research to understand the people. So we always ground ourselves in that kind of research. And then what we do is we take it and we put it into programs that change the way people behave. And so we targeted the higher education sector. George is here from an organization called Second Nature that we partnered with, and we've done a series of programs in higher education. Like we did something called the American College and University President's Climate Commitment with Second Nature and another group called ASHI, and we have got 700 colleges and universities in America. Their presidents have signed a pledge to go climate neutral, no net impact on the environment, to measure and report their emissions every year, measure and report their progress on their plan. So you take a look at that and you say there's roughly 20 million, 18 million students in higher education, plus the faculties and the staff. We've taken, over the course of the last 6 years, we've got half of those people to go climate neutral. And it changes, so we don't just, anytime you talk about just like communications, it's never enough. So we do programs that change behaviors. I'm just going to do 2 more in higher education because there's a lot of education people. If you pick up the Princeton Guide to Colleges, and they rate every college right now on how sustainable they are, student quality of life and the institution itself. We put together that rating service that the Princeton Guide uses. And then a third program that we just came out with about 1.5 years ago is something called SEED, which is Sustainability, Education, and Economic Development, which is, we partnered with the American Association of Community Colleges and did a complete curriculum on, there's 6 topic areas of sustainability, and we have half of America's community colleges in the 1.5 years has committed to do this. So when you do it, when you just try to say something, it doesn't necessarily produce the kind of results that you want, but if you actually put together a program that changes the environment, you can actually change the way people think about and do things, and that's what we do. So we're all here at this New Economics Institute conference, and like I say, I have a feeling it's the start of something very big. But one of the reasons we're all here is because we think that the current system isn't working real well, and it's either going to be the environment that's going to get us, or it's going to be the economy that's going to get us, or they're both going to get us. And it's going to be not pretty. People talk about that there has to be a big crisis before we're going to respond, or you have to demand action before you got to do that, before you can get change. I think that there's ways that we can all get change on scale a little bit more quickly and a little bit more effectively. And I really like Gus Speth's 10 rules, what we needed to do to transform society. So I have 5 little helper things that I've come up with. As I've gone through all these sections, I've got so many good ideas, I keep changing my script a little bit. But, so I have just 5 takeaways for you. Number 1 is messages are unbelievably important and they're never enough. And I just want to do one. One of them is the concept of universal health care. For decades, the people in the healthcare community argued for universal health care, and that really spooked a lot of people. It's an Orwellian takeover of the government and society. It's really bad. And then in the last 3 years before they got the health care bill passed, they changed it to health care for all. And in that little changing, just by stop saying universal health care and saying health care for all, made it a personal right that you deserve and you should have now, and that someone's kind of taking it away from you if you don't. So if you can think about everything the way that you say, it does create frames in people's minds, and there's ways of saying it that are very empowering, that can get people, motivate people to action, and there's other things to say things that are very demobilizing. The second point is we always talk, so you got to get the message right, right? The second thing we always talk about is getting the messenger right. And I would encourage you not to think about the messenger. I would encourage you to think about the audience, okay? If you can go out and say, these are the people I want to convince, and this is how I want, you know, these are the people I want to convince of what, that gives you a much better context for looking at your thing. If you say it's you know, I got to connect with faith, and therefore the messenger is people of faith. Okay, that gives you a slice of it, but it doesn't really tell you what they should say or how they should say it or what they should communicate. And as soon as you focus on people of faith, then it gives you a really broad context and you can deal with those things. The third thing is concept of values. A lot of us try to create new values. And I got to tell you, you know, from when you were a little kid, from most Americans were taught from when they were, you know, went to kindergarten, if you get good grades, you'll get into a better school. And if you get a better school and keep working harder, you're going to get a better job. And a better job is a better wife and a better education and better vacations and better. It is so ingrained into Americans, this thing is that you've got to be, from when you're kindergarten, you've got to try hard and produce good results, because that's how you do good for your family, that's how you do good for yourself. It's not even really so connected with commercialism and consumerism. It is part of that, but it's everything about your life is that you produce results, whether you're academic or whatever, you produce results. If you try to fight against that, it's a pretty tough fight. The way to usually do it is, instead of trying to create new values, is to connect with existing values. And if you really study your people and you say, okay, I want them to care about this, and these are the 5 things. We use what formula that we call leverage points, obstacles, and competing priorities. If you really understand what the obstacles, why they don't do what you want them to do, the leverage points, the other values that they have that you can connect with, and then the competing priorities, the thing that distract them, it gives you, again, a framework to put together a plan to connect with the people and get them to relate to you. You can relate to them, and they can relate to you. The fourth thing, and then, you know, we did this with Second Nature, and we've done it with a lot of other things, is that I would suggest never go it alone. Find authentic partners in every community. They give you scale, they give you leverage, they give you authenticity. You know, if you go out and you say, we're trying to convince people to do whatever the program is, if you go out and you can find some like-minded organizations that have, that will participate with you, you can get a lot farther, a lot faster. And then the last thing I want to say is that, you know, there's been a lot of people that I've heard say over the last couple of days that we're not making enough progress fast enough. I can't disagree with that at all. I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation. I did a PowerPoint presentation 3 years ago on this, and I could pull it out today. And where people are at climate and where people are in everything, we haven't made any step forward, and in a lot of respects we've kind of gone backwards. I could do that same presentation today. So the other thing I want to say is that we got to make progress, and I think the way to make progress is to set a specific goal. 3 years from now, we want to have this done. You know, a goal is a measurable, deliverable, and a time frame, and then set up some sub-goals. And if you're not getting there when you're trying to get, you know, if you get a year into it and you're not getting there, then maybe you should go back and reevaluate and change the goals. But don't just work on things, make things happen. That's all I have to say. Thank you.